Commander Kim Hannah stared at the massive space station growing larger through the viewport of the diplomatic ship Concordia. The year was 2387, and this moment would change everything for humanity. She had trained for this day her entire career, but nothing could have prepared her for what was about to happen. The station orbited the planet Kepler 442b like a glittering jewel in space. It was 10 times larger than any human structure, built from materials that seemed to bend light itself. This was where 12 alien species had ruled the galaxy for over 3,000 years. "We are being pulled in by their tractor beam," announced Navigator Lee Miho from his control station. His voice was steady, but Hannah could hear the nervousness underneath. "Docking Bay 7 just like they told us." Hannah smoothed down her dark blue diplomatic uniform. The golden Earth symbol on her chest felt heavier than usual today. Behind her, Dr. Park Jiwon was busy preparing their gifts for the aliens. The team had spent 8 months choosing the perfect examples of human culture, beautiful music, amazing art, and breakthrough scientific discoveries that could help the entire galaxy. "Remember everyone," Hannah said to her crew, "we represent all of humanity today. We show them we are peaceful, intelligent, and ready to join galactic society." The docking process was smooth and silent. Alien technology guided their ship into the station like an invisible hand. When the airlock opened, 2 creatures were waiting for them. One looked like a walking crystal formation that sparkled with inner light. The other resembled a giant insect with 6 legs and clicking mandibles that made strange sounds. The crystal being spoke first. "Welcome humans from the 3rd planet. I am Ambassador Krell9 of the Vorthak. This is Commander Zixthar of the Zephyrians. Follow us to the Grand Assembly Chamber." The corridors they walked through were incredible. The walls seemed to be alive with flowing colors and patterns. The ceiling was so high that Hannah felt dizzy looking up. Different sections had different atmospheres, some filled with thick green gas, others with floating water droplets, and some that glowed with strange energy. The Grand Assembly Chamber took Hannah's breath away. It was enormous, easily the size of 10 football stadiums. 12 different areas were set up for 12 different types of alien life. Some floated in liquid, others stood on platforms of ice, and a few existed as pure energy patterns and containment fields. At the center of it all was a raised platform where the most important aliens sat. High Chancellor Vector of the Vorthak race dominated the space. He was twice the height of any human, made entirely of living crystal that changed colors as he moved. His voice, when he spoke, created harmonics that vibrated through Hannah's bones. "Humans of Earth," the Chancellor began, "your species has been expanding across space very quickly. In only 200 years, you have claimed 17 star systems. This has caught our attention." Hannah stepped forward and bowed respectfully. "Great Chancellor, we come in peace. We offer our knowledge, our culture, and our friendship to the galactic hegemony. We hope to learn from your wisdom and contribute to galactic civilization." A sound like laughter came from the insectoid Zephyrian representative. Its mandibles clicked rapidly as it spoke. "Peace? How amusing. Tell us, primitive creatures, what makes you think you belong among civilized races?" Dr. Park activated their holographic displays before Hannah could respond. The chamber filled with images of human achievement. Beautiful symphonies played while art from every human culture appeared in the air. They showed cities where different races lived together in harmony, hospitals where humans saved lives, and laboratories where scientists worked to cure diseases. "We believe our diversity and creativity could benefit everyone in the galaxy," Dr. Park explained. "Humans are good at adapting and solving problems. We want to share what we have learned." High Chancellor Vector's crystal body pulsed with different colors as he studied the displays. His multifaceted eyes reflected the images like a kaleidoscope. "Interesting presentations. Your species does show some promise. However, joining our confederation is not simple. You must prove you understand how things work in civilized space." Something in his tone made Hannah's stomach feel cold. "What kind of proof do you require?" "Nothing complicated," the Chancellor replied, his voice becoming colder. "Your species will provide 10 billion individuals as tribute. These humans will be executed across our entertainment networks. Every world in the hegemony will watch as your people die. This will prove that humanity understands proper order and hierarchy." The chamber became completely silent. Hannah felt like she had been struck by lightning. The words seemed impossible to understand. "You are asking us to commit genocide against our own people." "We are asking you to demonstrate order," Vector corrected. "Your species has grown too fast and claimed too many worlds. Other races need to see what happens when newcomers do not know their place." If you refuse, we will simply take what we need from your colony worlds. Hannah's diplomatic training took over, even though her heart was pounding with rage and horror. Humanity will never agree to such terms. We will never sacrifice our people for your entertainment. The crystalline chancellor's form shifted, reflecting colors that somehow felt like satisfaction and amusement. Excellent response. Then we will proceed without your permission. Our fleets already surround your colony worlds of New Seoul, Busan Station, and the Jeju Mining Consortium. The Great Culling will begin in exactly 72 hours. The transmission screens around the chambers suddenly went dark. The meeting was over. The human delegation stood alone among the alien representatives, who were already leaving as if nothing important had happened. Hannah realized that humanity had just made the most powerful enemies in the galaxy. The advertisements had been running for 3 days across every alien world in the galaxy. Bright, colorful displays promised the greatest entertainment event in centuries. The Great Culling watched the new species learn their place. Billions of alien beings made plans to gather with friends and family to watch the show. On the crystalline world of Vorthak Prime, crystal beings arranged themselves in perfect geometric patterns around their viewing chambers. On the insect planet Zephyr 9, the chittering masses built comfortable nests to watch from. Even the gas beings of Nebula Station formed special viewing clouds to observe the spectacle. Meanwhile, on Earth, every human leader had gathered in the Global Defense Council chambers deep beneath Geneva. President Cho Min-soo stood at the center of the room, surrounded by presidents, prime ministers and representatives from every nation on the planet. The massive wall screens showed live feeds from their captured colony worlds. 10 billion people, whispered Defense Minister Kim Yuna, staring at the screens in disbelief. They took everyone from New Seoul, Busan Station and the Jeju colonies. Even the children. The screens showed enormous arena complexes that the aliens had built in just 3 days. Each structure was the size of a city, designed like a twisted entertainment park. Human families huddled together in holding areas, confused and terrified. They had no idea what was about to happen to them. At exactly 1800 hours Galactic Standard Time, High Chancellor Vector's voice boomed across every communication channel in known space. His crystal form appeared on screens throughout the galaxy, colors pulsing with what aliens recognized as excitement. Citizens of the galaxy, he announced, today you witnessed the natural order of civilization. The species called humans refused to accept their proper place in our society. Now they will serve as an example to any other primitive race that might consider defying the hegemony. Let the Great Culling begin. The broadcast started simultaneously across thousands of worlds. Dr. Kang Sumi sat in her laboratory at the Seoul Research Institute on Earth, monitoring the alien feeds as part of her job studying extraterrestrial life. She had spent years dreaming of making contact with alien civilizations. Now she watched in absolute horror as her dreams became nightmares. On her main screen, she saw Zephyrian aliens, the giant insect creatures releasing human children into massive maze structures. The children ran crying for their parents while the insect beings hunted them for sport. The alien audience made sounds that the translation systems interpreted as laughter and excitement. Every time a child was caught, the crowd cheered louder. The parents are being forced to watch, Sumi whispered to herself, her hands shaking as she took notes. They are making the parents watch their children die. On another screen she saw what was happening on Vorthak Prime. Elderly humans were being placed in transparent acid chambers while Vorthak scientists slowly dissolved their bodies. The crystal beings treated human screams like music, recording every sound while their audience pulsed with colors of entertainment. They called it biological research, but everyone knew it was torture designed to amuse the crowd. Captain Nam Ji-hoon stood on the Mars defense platform, watching the feeds from his command center. His job was to protect human space, but there was nothing he could do for the people in those alien arenas. On his screens, he watched the Tenthari species creatures that looked like giant octopi forcing human families to fight each other in gladiatorial combat. The tentacle beings are making bets, reported his communications officer, her voice hollow with shock. They are gambling on which humans will kill their own family members first. The torture continued for 18 straight hours. Each of the 12 alien species contributed their own methods of killing humans. The crystalline Vorthak dissolved people in acid. The insect Zephyrians hunted children like animals. The tentacled Tenthari forced families to murder each other. Other species used methods too horrible to describe. What made it worse was that this was not war. This was entertainment. Alien families gathered around their viewing devices, sharing snacks and drinks while watching humans die in the most cruel ways imaginable. Children alien beings cheered when human children were killed. The galaxy was treating human suffering like a television show. The aliens expected Earth to surrender immediately after seeing this display of power. They expected mass panic, riots in the streets, and desperate pleas for mercy from human leaders. Instead, something completely different happened. In Seoul, factory worker John Yunho stood in the main square with thousands of his neighbors. Everyone watched the public screens in perfect silence. When the 18 hours of broadcast finally ended, no one screamed. No one cried. No one ran away in panic. The crowd simply stood there, looking at each other with an expression that needed no words. Every person in that square had just learned something terrible about the universe they lived in. They had discovered that their children, their parents, their brothers and sisters meant nothing to the aliens except entertainment. Similar scenes happened in every city on Earth. In Beijing, New York, Lagos, Mumbai, and Sao Paulo, millions of people watched the broadcasts in complete silence. The expected panic never came. Instead, humanity had learned a lesson that the aliens never intended to teach. In the Global Defense Council chamber, President Cho Min-soo looked around at the faces of world leaders. Every person in the room had the same expression, not fear, not desperation, but something much more dangerous. Cut all external communications, he said quietly. Begin Phase 1. Within 6 hours, Earth went completely silent. Every radio signal, every data transmission, every communication with the outside galaxy simply stopped. The silence was so complete that alien monitoring stations thought human civilization had collapsed. The aliens believed they had broken humanity's spirit. They had no idea they had just created something far more terrifying than anything the galaxy had ever seen. The alien leaders gathered in the Grand Assembly chamber, their mood celebratory. High Chancellor Vector's crystalline form pulsed with satisfied colors as he addressed the council. The human homeworld has gone silent, he announced to the representatives of 12 species. Clearly they have accepted their defeat and are preparing to surrender. Their primitive minds could not handle the demonstration of our power. The Zephyrian representative clicked its mandibles in what passed for laughter among its kind. Typical behavior from a young species. Show them their place in the universe and they hide like scared insects. Soon we will have new servants to entertain us. Other alien representatives nodded in agreement. The Tenthari delegation waved their tentacles dismissively. Humans proved to be more fragile than we expected. Perhaps we were too harsh with our lesson. Nonsense, replied a gas being from Nebula Station. They needed to learn respect for their betters. Now they will serve the hegemony properly as all primitive species must. What none of these powerful aliens realized was that Earth's silence was not surrender. It was preparation. Deep beneath Mount Fuji in Japan, Dr. Song Hyojin worked in the most secret laboratory ever built by human hands. The facility stretched for miles underground, hidden from any alien detection systems. Every nation on Earth had contributed their best scientists to this project, which had only one name: extinction. Status report. Hyojin called to her assistant, Lim Taeyong, who was studying data streams on multiple computer screens. Genetic analysis is complete, Taeyong reported, his voice steady despite the terrible nature of their work. We have found biological weaknesses in all 12 alien species. The Vorthac crystal beings can be shattered using specific sound frequencies. Zephyrian insect shells dissolve when exposed to modified human stomach acid. The Tenthari nervous systems crash when hit with certain electromagnetic waves. Around them, thousands of scientists worked day and night to develop weapons that would kill aliens efficiently. They were not creating tools for conquest or defense. They were building instruments of complete extinction. At the Ganymede shipyards near Jupiter, Fleet Admiral Park Dong-hyuk supervised the construction of humanity's new space fleet. The massive construction bays worked around the clock, building ships unlike anything humans had ever made before. Report on the new vessels, Dong-hyuk requested from his chief engineer. All ships are ready, Admiral, came the reply. These are not exploration ships or even normal warships. Each vessel is designed to kill one specific alien species with maximum efficiency. No heavy armor, no defensive shields, just weapons and engines. Each ship can reach any alien world within 30 days. The ships looked nothing like traditional human spacecraft. They were sleek, deadly instruments built for one purpose: to carry death to alien worlds and leave nothing alive behind. In another secret facility, Dr. Bae Yuna led the Psychological Warfare Division. Her team had spent months studying alien behavior patterns and military tactics. What they discovered would change everything. We have found their greatest weakness, she announced to the Global War Council. The alien species have lived in peace for thousands of years. Their military thinking is based on conquest, taking territory, capturing resources, ruling over defeated enemies. They have no experience fighting an enemy that wants complete extinction. Her analysis was terrifying in its simplicity. The aliens expected humans to fight like civilized beings, to want something from their enemies. They could not imagine an enemy that wanted nothing except their complete death. Meanwhile, Special Operations Commander Zhang Wujin trained the most dangerous soldiers in human history. 10 million people had volunteered for the Hunter Corps after watching the Great Culling broadcasts. These volunteers came from every nation and every background, united by one goal. Listen carefully, Wujin told a group of trainees in a vast underground training facility. We are not soldiers going to war. We are not conquerors seeking territory. We are exterminators. Our job is to make sure no alien survives. Leave nothing alive. Each hunter was enhanced with experimental biotechnology that made them stronger, faster, and more deadly than normal humans. They trained with weapons designed specifically to kill different alien species. Some learned to hunt crystal beings, others specialized in destroying insect-like creatures, and still others focused on eliminating tentacled monsters. The most frightening plans came from the Strategic Planning Division, led by General Oh Sung-won. His team had created operational blueprints that would have horrified any civilized species. Our strategy is simple, he explained to the military leadership. We do not attack alien military forces first. We do not target their infrastructure or government buildings. We begin by killing their civilian populations, their children, their elderly, their families. We want them to feel exactly what our people felt during the Great Culling. It was a plan for systematic genocide, carried out with scientific precision and industrial efficiency. For 18 months, Earth remained silent while this terrible preparation continued. Every human on the planet worked toward the same goal. Factories that once made civilian goods now produced weapons. Universities that once taught peaceful sciences now researched methods of alien extermination. Children who once played games now learned to hate with perfect focus. The aliens interpreted this silence as submission and began making plans to colonize human worlds. They had no idea that humanity was transforming into something the galaxy had never seen before. Then Earth's silence finally broke, but not with words or surrender demands. The first sign came when alien frontier colonies simply vanished. No distress signals reached the hegemony. No debris fields marked battles. No survivors escaped to tell what happened. Entire alien worlds became empty as if their populations had never existed. The silence that followed was different from Earth's silence. It was the silence of death. Operation Alien Extinct had begun, and the galaxy would never be the same. Scout Commander Rick Keth stood in the control center of Hive 7, staring at communication screens that showed nothing but static. For 3 days, the outer settlements of the Zephyrian colony had been completely silent. Must be equipment problems, he clicked to his subordinates, his mandibles moving in patterns that showed mild annoyance. Send repair teams to the outer hives tomorrow. Rick Keth had no way of knowing that the repair teams would never return. He had no idea that something was already moving through the darkness between the stars, coming for his world with deadly purpose. The first sign of trouble came at dawn. The motion sensors around Hive 7 detected nothing, but suddenly 3 Zephyrian guards at the main entrance simply collapsed. Their chitinous shells began dissolving like ice in hot water, leaving behind only puddles of green liquid. Intruders! Rick Keth screamed into his communicator, but his words never reached the other hives. The communication arrays had been destroyed in the first seconds of the attack. Captain Moon Jae-min and his strike team moved through Hive 7 like deadly shadows. They wore special suits that made them nearly invisible to Zephyrian sensors. Each human carried weapons that looked like simple spray bottles, but contained something far more dangerous, a modified version of human stomach acid that could dissolve Zephyrian shells in minutes. Remember the children, Jae-min whispered to his team as they moved deeper into the hive complex. Remember what these creatures did to our children in their mazes. The Zephyrians' greatest advantage became their greatest weakness. Their hive mind communication system meant that every alien in the colony could share thoughts and feelings instantly. This made them excellent at working together, but it also meant that when one Zephyrian died in agony, every other Zephyrian felt that death. As Jaemin's team systematically eliminated the aliens, waves of death screams echoed through the collective consciousness of the entire colony. The surviving Zephyrians became paralyzed by the psychological trauma of feeling thousands of their kind die simultaneously. They huddled in their chambers, unable to move or fight back. Target eliminated, Jae-min reported to his fleet commander. Hive 7 shows no signs of life. Moving to Hive 3. On the other side of the galaxy, Dr. Song Hyojin stood on the crystalline surface of Vorthak Prime. This was personal for her. She had watched the broadcasts of Vorthak scientists slowly dissolving human elders in acid while their crystalline audiences pulsed with entertainment colors. "Activate sonic weapons," she ordered her team. The weapons they carried looked like musical instruments, but they produced sounds that no human ear could hear. The frequencies were precisely calculated to match the harmonic structure of Vorthak crystal bodies. When the sounds hit the aliens, their bodies began vibrating at frequencies they could not control. High Chancellor Vector watched from his palace as human soldiers moved through his capital city. His people, beautiful beings of living crystal that had ruled the galaxy for millennia, were shattering like glass windows hit by rocks. The harmonic weapons turned their bodies into piles of sparkling dust. "Impossible," he whispered as his own form began to vibrate. "We are the superior species. We are civilized. How can primitives do this to us?" The humans moved with terrifying efficiency. They showed no anger, no satisfaction, no emotion at all as they reduced an entire civilization to scattered crystal fragments. They were not warriors seeking glory, they were exterminators doing a job. The Tenthari homeworld faced a different kind of destruction. Commander Seo Minji's psychological warfare unit had discovered that the tentacled aliens were empathic. They could feel the emotions of other beings around them. This sensitivity had made them excellent diplomats and traders, but it also made them vulnerable to a uniquely human form of attack. "Begin broadcast," Minjay ordered. Across the Tenthari homeworld, every communication device suddenly began showing the same images recordings from the Great Culling. Human children running through alien mazes while their parents screamed. Human families forced to fight each other while tentacled beings placed bets on the outcomes. But these were not just videos. The broadcasts carried the actual emotional content, the pure human anguish, terror, and despair from those moments. The empathic Tenthari nervous systems were overwhelmed by the concentrated pain of 10 billion dying humans. One by one, the tentacled beings collapsed as their minds shut down from emotional overload. They died not from weapons or poison, but from feeling too much human suffering at once. Similar scenes played out across 47 star systems. Each alien species faced weapons designed specifically for their biology and psychology. The humans had studied their enemies with scientific precision and created targeted methods of extinction. Captain Nam Jihun commanded the operation from his flagship, the Earth's Vengeance. The ship's command center displayed a map of the galaxy with red dots marking alien worlds. As he watched, the red dots disappeared one by one. "Status report," he requested from his tactical officer, Kim Nara. 8 species completely extinct, she reported in a flat, emotionless voice. 4 species reduced to less than 1% of original population. Current projections indicate total extinction of all target species within 6 months. Nam nodded. There was no celebration, no cheering, no sense of victory. This was not a war, it was pest control on a galactic scale. Emergency broadcasts began spreading across the galaxy as neutral species watched the systematic annihilation in horror. The humans were not conquering alien worlds or demanding surrender. They were simply making entire species cease to exist. Other alien civilizations that had never been part of the hegemony realized they were witnessing something unprecedented in galactic history. A species had been created that fought not for territory, resources, or political power, but purely for revenge. The humans wanted nothing from their enemies except their complete death. The galaxy was learning a terrible new truth about the species from the small blue planet. Humanity had become something that violated every principle of civilized space, a race dedicated entirely to genocide, executing it with industrial efficiency and scientific precision. The great crystal spires of Vorthak Prime no longer sparkled with their famous inner light. The magnificent towers that had once housed millions of crystalline beings now stood empty and dark, their surfaces cracked and broken like shattered glass. In the highest tower of the royal palace, High Chancellor Vector stood completely alone. He was the last Vorthak in the universe. The silence around him felt heavy, like something pressing down on his crystal body from all directions. For 3,000 years, his people had filled the galaxy with their harmonic voices, their songs traveling between stars. Now there was nothing but quiet. His communication array flickered to life one final time. The screen showed a human face that he recognized: Admiral Kim Hannah, the same woman who had stood before the Grand Assembly years ago as a diplomatic commander. Now she wore the dark uniform of Earth's extinction fleet, her face older and marked by the weight of terrible decisions. "High Chancellor," she said, her voice calm and quiet, "you wanted to teach the galaxy what happens to species that defy you. We learned your lesson very well. Vector's crystalline form began changing colors, patterns that any Vorthak would recognize as deep fear and desperate regret. We made a mistake, he said, his harmonic voice cracking like breaking glass. We underestimated your species completely. Perhaps we could discuss terms, some kind of agreement. No, Hannah interrupted, her voice cutting through his words like a blade of ice. You broadcast the murder of our children across the galaxy for entertainment. You turned human suffering into a show for your audiences to enjoy. You made our people's deaths into a game. There are no terms. There is no agreement. There is only what you taught us. Through the crystal windows of his palace, Vector could see the human fleet surrounding his planet. Hundreds of ships filled the space around Vorthak Prime, each one designed specifically to destroy crystalline life forms. The vessels looked nothing like the peaceful diplomatic ship that had visited the hegemony years before. We are showing the galaxy what happens to species that murder our children for fun, Hannah continued, her face showing no emotion at all. We are demonstrating what happens when you make an enemy of humanity. The transmission ended, leaving Vector alone with his thoughts. He had time to remember the great culling, the celebration his people had felt while watching human families die in creative ways. He remembered the entertainment value they had placed on human suffering, the scientific curiosity they had shown while dissolving human elders in acid. Now he understood that humanity had been taking notes. The sonic weapons began their work. The harmonic frequencies filled the air around the palace, tuned precisely to match the resonance of Vorthak crystal bodies. Vector felt his consciousness begin to vibrate and break apart, just as billions of his people had experienced in the months before. As the last Vorthak died, his final thought was a terrible realization. His species had created something far more dangerous than they had ever imagined. Across the galaxy, the Great Silence had begun. It was different from the silence Earth had shown during its preparation time. This was not the quiet of hidden activity, but the absolute silence of extinction. 12 species that had ruled galactic civilization for thousands of years simply no longer existed. The Zephyrian homeworld was empty, its great hive cities standing like abandoned insect shells. The Tenthari worlds floated in space with no tentacled beings to inhabit them. Every species that had participated in the Great Culling had been systematically eliminated with scientific precision. On Earth, something unprecedented in human history was happening. In Seoul, the same public square where factory worker John Yunho had watched the alien broadcasts in silence, thousands of people gathered for the memorial broadcasts. Similar scenes occurred in every human city: Beijing, New York, Lagos, Mumbai, Sao Paulo, and countless others. The names were being read aloud. 10 billion names one by one. Park Min-soo, age 7, died in the Zephyrian hunting mazes. Lee Grandma, age 74, dissolved in Vorthak acid chambers. Kim, family of 5, forced to fight each other in Tenthari gladiatorial arenas. The reading would take months to complete, but every human listened. Children learned the names of other children who had died for alien entertainment. Adults remembered faces from the broadcasts, people they had never met but whose deaths had united humanity in purpose. President Cho Min-soo, now an elderly man with white hair, stood before the Global Assembly to make the final announcement. Representatives from every nation on Earth and every human colony listened as he spoke. Today marks the completion of Operation Alien Extinct, he said, his voice carrying the weight of history. The galactic hegemony no longer exists. Their 12 species are extinct. We have kept our promise to the 10 billion who died for their entertainment. There was no celebration, no cheering, no sense of victory. The assembly sat in respectful silence, understanding that humanity had fundamentally changed. They were no longer the peaceful, curious species that had sent diplomatic missions to make alien friends. Throughout the galaxy, other alien species that had never been part of the hegemony watched and learned a terrifying new truth. Humanity was not a species to be conquered, enslaved, or entertained. They were beings who remembered every face, every name, every child who had suffered and died. The message Earth sent to the galaxy was simple and permanent: never again would any species dare to harm humans for amusement. The Great Culling had been intended to teach humanity about power and submission. Instead, it had created something far more frightening than the hegemony had ever been. A united humanity with perfect memory and absolute commitment to revenge. The galaxy was quiet now, filled with empty worlds and the knowledge that a new apex predator had emerged from a small blue planet. In that cosmic silence, 10 billion human names echoed through space and time, an eternal reminder of what happens when someone makes the mistake of entertaining themselves with human suffering. The age of galactic peace was over. The age of human dominance had begun.